Afghanistan, a beautiful place filled with huge mountain ranges and rugged deserts. A country made up of amazing people with irresistibly interesting lives. A culture unlike any other filled with rich tradition, where religion is valued above everything else, and a new, more westernized government is trying for change. Are you ready to take a walk through Afghanistan?
Afghanistan is located directly under Turkmenistan and right above Pakistan. Its capital is the city of Kabul. There are two types of housing categories in Afghanistan: rural and urban. Urban housing is colorful, smaller, and has more of an apartment style interior and exterior. Urban housing is usually found in big apartment buildings or smaller, really close together, standalone homes.
Rural housing consists of compounds and villages. Most village houses consist of clay and mud. The houses aren't very big, whereas compounds are huge. In most cases, the households consist of whole families, including grandparents and livestock.
The interior of most Afghan households usually consists of a lot of rugs, pillows, and blankets. Whether you see one on the wall or on the floor, there are always rugs. There are also low tables so that people can sit on the ground and eat. Sometimes, you will find a television in most urban households. However, because electricity in Afghanistan is so unstable, it is difficult to find hours where a television would be working.
In Afghanistan, one should be aware that many different variations of transportation are used daily. One should also understand that mass amounts of people may pile up in one vehicle to get somewhere. Transportation in Afghanistan isn't luxurious. It simply gets people from point A to point B, with a bit more speed than the journey would be on foot.
Donkeys, horses, and camels may be found in the more rural places of Afghanistan, being used as more of a crude form of transportation. Besides transportation, these animals can also be found around rural farms. Cars found in Afghanistan are usually trucks or vans.
Jobs in Afghanistan are very different from the US. Even though more urban areas are becoming Western, there are still plenty of buzzing markets and bazaars, filled with people selling their trades. On top of this, there are the business workers, the people working for big companies, and there are the local business owners. They might own a small restaurant. Things in Afghanistan cost less than things in the US do. Economically, things just aren't as expensive. In other words, the cost of living is less.
In many ways, school in Afghanistan is very similar to school in America. However, in Afghanistan, girls are valued much differently than they are in the US. Earlier in Afghanistan, a few years ago in fact, girls were not even allowed to get educated. It was rare to see a woman in any type of job. Today, you can find women being managers of companies and stores. With women able to get a simple education, they have started becoming more of an importance in the Afghan society.
In general, education goes primary school, secondary school, high school, and then university. Classes consist of religion, math, biology, chemistry, and languages, such as Dari and Pashto. English is also taught, but only at basic levels.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Islam is the main religion of almost all Afghans. There are two different variations of Islam as a religion. Those are Sunni and Shia. Islam guides most people's lives from birth to death. Its influence on daily activities is often shared with such local behavior codes. Founded by the Prophet Muhammad in 622 and introduced to Afghanistan in the 7th century, Islam is based on the belief in one God, or Allah. Islam shares many biblical figures with Judaism and Christianity, but Muslims cite Muhammad as the last prophet to receive divine revelation from God.
Religion is the one thing every Muslim has, and it usually, if not always, gives them something to hold on to. Whether a family is in a time of difficulty, or if someone just had a bad day, praying is usually the way followers of Islam cope with difficult times. When traveling and living in Afghanistan, there are many important mosques, or places of Islam worship. You will also hear prayer calls 5 times a day. These are signals to help the Afghans know what times to pray throughout the day. As part of the 5 pillars of faith, followers of Islam must pray 5 times a day.
Men usually wear knee-length skirts or kamises worn over baggy trousers called partugs, pulled tight with a drawstring. Men may wear a dress coat or open vest called a vaskat. Men commonly wear a white shawl called a pato over their shoulders. Shoes are removed for prayers, with the exception of special shoes called masis, worn by some older Afghans. Walking around in the day, Afghan men wear comfortable flip-flops or easy slipper-like shoes to take on and off.
Women wear a long, colorful dress with a short jacket, long coat, or shawl to cover their hair. Some women wear a head-to-toe covering called a burqa over their clothing. Faces are covered by an intricately embroidered window through which the wearer could see. The burqa was required public attire for all women during the Taliban era, and it is still in widespread use today. Jewelry, which is made from gold and silver, is common. Many people, especially children, wear an amulet to protect against evil. In Afghanistan, there are many holidays. They are usually based in one of 2 categories. Like Americans, their holidays are on historical days for Afghanistan or part of their Muslim religion.
Good afternoon, everybody. Please have a seat. It is my pleasure to welcome President Karzai back to the White House, as well as this delegation. We last saw each other during the NATO summit in my hometown of Chicago, a city that reflects the friendship between our peoples, including many Afghan Americans, as well as the Karzai family. So, Mr. President, welcome.
Hamid Karzai, the previous president of Afghanistan, was sworn in originally as the interim president on December 22, 2001. This interim government was only supposed to be active for a period of 6 months. During this 6-month period, the government was to re-establish control of the country after the Taliban was driven out and back into Pakistan. After the 6-month period expired, Afghanistan held their first ever democratic election, and Karzai was elected over his 22 opponents in the race. Before this election could take place, however, there had to be some previous major events that had to help shape Afghanistan into what it has become.
In the late 1970s, tensions were incredibly high between the USSR and the United States. The Vietnam War had just drawn to a close, and communism continued to spread throughout the world. The USSR declared its intervention plan on December 12, 1979, and it was carried out 15 days later on December 27, 1979. This was the start of the Soviet reign in Afghanistan and continued for 5 years until the Taliban took over, as the USSR fell and pulled out of Afghanistan, leaving room for a new government to be established.
As the Afghan National Army mobilized in part with the U.S., they planned to take down the Taliban. When the Taliban withdrew in 2001, it finally brought a sense of peace back to the country. This brings us back to Hamid Karzai and his victory in the first democratic elections of Afghanistan. Karzai has helped put the country back together after the 10 years of mayhem in the country.
As previously mentioned, most Afghans are one of 2 variations of Islam. This also plays a major role in what jobs or activities one might be able to participate in, or have. The male of the house will traditionally be the main breadwinner for the family, and will almost always be the voice of the family. The male will also have the ability to attend many public gatherings, activities, or sporting events, such as soccer, basketball, cricket, or even the national sport of Afghanistan, buzkashi.
This will typically be accompanied by the woman of the house staying behind and doing various chores, while doing her part to contribute to the family dynamic of the traditional Afghan household. When a woman is traveling to Afghanistan, she's expected to be mostly covered and have some sort of headscarf as well. Gender roles, which also correlate with religion, tradition, and culture, are extremely important in Afghanistan, and they dictate many aspects of Afghan life. Thank you for coming on this wonderful journey with us through a truly spectacular country where everyone is a local, in a constantly evolving society where a new adventure awaits every day, in a new landscape just outside your window, and friendly faces guiding you every step of the way. What will you discover in Afghanistan?